Our top story this evening, South Korea woke up to another missile launch by North Korea on Saturday. The regime fired 2 projectiles into the East Sea around the break of dawn. The South Korean government says it's sharing information with Japan about the launch.
It was the North's 7th test fire of projectiles in the space of a month. On Saturday, North Korea fired 2 projectiles into the East Sea at 6:45 a.m. and 7:02 a.m. Korea time from its eastern area of Sondak. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff says the projectiles were thought to be short-range ballistic missiles. The projectiles flew roughly 380 kilometers, reached an altitude of 97 kilometers, and hit a maximum speed of over Mach 6.5, which is about 8,000 kilometers an hour.
A nuclear power plant sailing the seas. Russia says it's one of the safest and cleanest ways to provide energy to remote areas. The Akademik Lomonosov combines both the technology of a nuclear-powered icebreaker and that of a land-based nuclear plant. It took 10 years to design and build. The power plant will be towed by 3 boats from Murmansk to the region of Chukotka, 5,000 kilometers away, on a journey that could take up to 6 weeks, depending on the ice. The 2-reactor unit is one of the key projects of President Putin's so-called Northern Sea Route, a faster sea connection between Europe and Asia, which has become accessible due to a melting Arctic. Despite safety concerns, Russia's nuclear agency says there is very little chance of a nuclear accident.
The nuclear station is very solid and is not vulnerable in case a tsunami or another disaster happens. Tests have shown that chances of a gigantic asteroid destroying the Earth in the future is twice as high as internal damage to this reactor.
The heads of state of the G7 nations are slowly arriving in Biarritz ahead of the weekend summit. This gathering of the world's most powerful leaders comes at a time of heightened tensions between several of the states. President Emmanuel Macron will preside over this 45th edition, where combating disputes over the global economy is high on the agenda. One such concern is the ongoing US-Chinese trade war. I have 2 objectives in these next few days. First, I must convince all our partners that tensions, and in particular commercial tensions, are bad for everyone. We must de-escalate the matters and stabilise things to avoid the trade wars that are appearing everywhere. Then we must find new ways to really get things going again, to create growth.
President Trump escalating his trade war, just moments ago taking new aggressive action against China. The president furious at Beijing for today imposing tariffs on $75 billion of American goods. And this evening, he fired right back with another tariff hike of his own. He also took aim at the Fed chair, his harshest attack yet, tweeting, "Who is our enemy? Who is our bigger enemy, Jay Powell or Chairman Xi?" The markets responding in real time, the Dow plunging, closing down at 623 points. All of this as President Trump prepares to leave for the G7 summit in France. ABC's Kira Phillips leads us off.
Wall Street today sent reeling after a morning tweet storm from President Trump. The Dow diving 623 points after the president tweeted American companies were, quote, hereby ordered to stop doing business with China.
The city of Abushe is about 900 kilometres from the Chadian capital N'Djamena and surrounded by grassland, making it an important cattle raising centre. But the battle for land and resources between its farmers and nomadic herders has seen it put under a state of emergency. The region's governor's been meeting with tribal and religious leaders to try to end recent unrest, in which dozens of people have been killed.
Any head of a civil administration or tribe must arrest criminals in his area because it is their job and responsibility to take care of the people, otherwise they will be sacked.
The emergency measures in Wadai and Sila provinces in the east and Tibesti in the west allow authorities to impose curfews, search homes and censor the media. President Idris Deby has called for civilians to give up their weapons and closed some borders, blaming the surge of violence on conflicts in neighbouring countries.
To Ottawa now, as the driver of a downtown bus involved in a deadly crash last January has now been charged with more than 36 offences. 3 people died when the top of the double-decker bus was sheared off, and there were many serious injuries.
Yeah, a lot of charges, as you mentioned. 3 charges of dangerous driving causing death. And again, 3 people were killed in this terrible collision that happened last January. 35 charges of dangerous driving causing bodily harm. So we're talking about 3 dozen people who were injured during this accident. And again, if you see some of the visuals from this accident, the bus was coming into the station. It was the coldest day of the year, and it was sliding into and smashed into this overhang, shearing off the roof and really doing a lot of damage to the people who were particularly on the upper levels.
It's not a sight that you see every day, to see police not in cars or arresting people, but on the front line of a march. It's Women's Month, and the women police here in P are saying that also doing their part to fight gangsterism and crime, especially in the area called the Northern Areas, an area really marred with a lot of gangsterism and a lot of drug abuse. Key to that is the issue of unemployment. But talk more about this march and why women on the front line in the formation of making sure that they fight crime in this area is Lieutenant General Police Commissioner Njinga. Ms. Njinga, why was it important for you guys to be part of this march today?
As women, we are part of the struggle of women in this country. As we started in the beginning of the week, we have a women's conference for the police, talking our own issues as the police that were coming, confronting us. Now today, we are inviting the community because as women, we are part of it. Because remember, we are not immune to any crime. If we talk about domestic violence, it also happens to us.
For the past 2 nights, Israel has pummeled the Gaza Strip with rocket fire.
ما لقينا الا العماره بتجري بالشارع، اجرينا حافيين وبيتنا برا وجينا لقينا الدمار اللي انت شايفه. لا في ظهور ولا في شنطه مدرسه ولا في اي حاجه يا امي. فيش اولاد بنتي صاروا 5 وابوهم وامهم بالشارع، احنا نمنا بالشارع. احنا الصغار هذول ناموا بالشارع وشحتوا هدمه يدفوا فيها. ما فيش حاجه.
Israel's responding to 2 days of attacks from Hamas rockets.
No sooner had Abu Ali's family thought they'd found somewhere to stay, the landowner moved them on. This is how it's been for hundreds of thousands of Syrians throughout the 7-year civil war, travelling further and further north to escape the fight. The traffic is mostly one way as people head away from the advancing government forces towards the last rebel stronghold of Idlib province. The Syrian regime now controls all of the countryside in Hama province south of Idlib after taking over with Russian help the last villages and towns that had been in rebel hands. It's all happened under the noses of Turkish soldiers. They're behind this wall in one of a dozen observation posts established to monitor what are supposed to be de-escalation zones.
A Cold War message in a bottle. Inside, a handwritten note in Russian dated June the 20th, 1969. Tyler Ivanov discovered the green champagne bottle as he was walking on the beach in western Alaska.
I stumbled across this bottle near the shoreline. I decided, I brought it to my kids and decided, I wonder who wrote the message, and I was pretty excited to find out who wrote it, and I opened it up, and my kids were wondering, is that from a pirate?
Not a pirate, but a Soviet sailor. Tyler posted photos on Facebook asking for help. Russian speakers translated the note, which wished the reader health, success and happy sailing, and a request for a return letter. The story was shared and picked up by Russian media, which tracked down the letter writer, Captain Anatoly Botsanenko. He and his shipmates had been on board Russian Navy ship the Sulak when they come up with the idea.